By the way, the Reagan White House, the first Bush White House, Clinton White House, they all had the possibility to say, hey, listen, there's a war on terrorism, Lebanon, Al-Qaeda, Clinton was fighting, 1993 World Trade Center bombings. They could have all said, hey, I'm above the law. I'm going to go ahead and violate all your rights. Hey. None of them did it until this guy. None of them did it.
Dude, Soviet Union. Soviet Union, they have 1 million nukes. They're pointed at us. I have to take charge to save us.
Right. Brezhnev and those guys.
Ronald Reagan could have said that 100 times.
But they never did it. They never went as far as these guys.
Richard Nixon. Oh, wait.
People who are interested in destroying our Constitution, in my book, are not good guys. So, the jury is no longer in. There's a decision. We have to fight Sam Alito as hard as humanly possible. Yeah. He just stepped up into the Gonzales ranks. He went from, I don't know, should we filibuster? If I was a senator, I don't know if I would have even voted yes or no in the first couple of months that we heard about Alito. Now, I would do anything in my power to make sure this guy doesn't get on the Supreme Court. He has a disastrous view of the Constitution that would lead to an unchecked, as Newsweek calls it, an imperial presidency that says the laws don't apply to me. I don't understand how a rational human being, let alone an established and esteemed judge like Alito, could possibly think that. My God, don't you understand the concept of America? I mean, how many times I got to say this? I just don't get it. By the way, just break it down for a second. Unitary means single. Authority means power, right? He has the single power.
Single, and executive means president. The single presidential power.
That means Congress and Supreme Court, it was interesting to have heard your opinion. But I now will do whatever the hell I please. And, these legitimate reporters, I know, what I mean by legitimate reporters, as opposed to us, is we do opinion on the show. We don't pretend to do journalism, unlike some counterparts on the right? But journalists, I understand their concern. And you don't want to, and you seem extreme when you talk about things like this. You say, well, in America, you can't talk about things like this. But I defy them to come up with an answer to what law can he not break?
The phrase unitary executive theory came into my consciousness when we read the I think it was the what paper was it?
There was a Raw Story piece. There was a Cleveland paper that wrote about
Cleveland Plain Dealer may have mentioned it first. The Bush signing statements. By the way, today the Boston Globe finally stepping up and saying, sort of to answer like, does this mean with the McCain signing statement that you're just going to ignore the law? The Boston Globe doing that story today, and bless him for doing that. But I mean, it's interesting because first of all, unitary executive theory. And you'll hear this from the right. They'll say it's been around for years, this notion that George Bush, and it has been around for years, and it's been around for years, and let me give you the definition of what it's essentially been for years. That there is a unitary executive branch led by the president, and therefore no part of that branch can sue another part, because the executive can't sue himself. Moreover, if the judicial branch were to adjudicate disputes between executive agencies, it would violate the doctrine of separation of powers. That just means if there's a fight between two parts of the executive branch, the judicial branch can't come in and solve that power. That has nothing to do with this issue of abuse of power. U.S. courts, by the way, have never ruled on the theory, but the Justice Department has adopted it, and this is how it was adopted in the past in its sort of most famous case, to determine that the Environmental Protection Agency couldn't sue the military for violating all sorts of environmental codes when the military does the things that it does, because there would be only one party in the lawsuit, the president, because he is the unitary executive. Well, that's an interesting constitutional debate, and people can be on both sides of that. That is not going to undermine our system of government in any way, shape, or form. The Bush administration has turned that in, and guys like David Addington, of course, who was Dick Cheney's lawyer, now as chief of staff replacing Scooter Libby, that the president has expansive powers and deserves nearly absolute deference from Congress and the judiciary.
Absolute deference. Does that sound like America to you? Unitary authority, if you're just dispute between EPA and Department of Interior, I get it, man. You're the president and you control that branch of the government. But you don't control all the branches of the government. The idea that he could make the law, interpret the law, and apply the law, I mean, has anyone read the Constitution? The Congress makes the law, the Supreme Court interprets the law, and the president is supposed to apply the law. He's not supposed to do all three. They're just, it's a power grab. It's a naked power grab. And Newsweek talks about it. Every president like a kid, you go as far as you possibly can to see where the limit is. By the way, that's actually not true. Not every president does it. Reagan didn't do it. The first Bush didn't do it. Clinton didn't do it. Bush did it. Okay, but I get it.
Every president does it except the previous three.
Exactly. I get it. So he wanted to push his boundaries. Well, you've run into the damn boundary, and here it is. And if we don't make our stand now, and our congressmen and our senators don't make the stand now, they have all got to go in 2006.